Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Body Wisdom with Dr. Michele. I'm your host, Dr. Michele, and today the healthy habit that we're talking about is healthy eating. Now, we have talked about eating on some of the other podcasts. We've talked about eating an earlier, lighter dinner, and we've talked about plant-based diet. But this one goes into some more details in a couple other things that were not discussed. So here we go. First of all, eating healthier is a trajectory. We never arrive. We simply become more wise at nourishing the complexity of who we are with the simplicity of our habits. So I just want to repeat that. It's a trajectory. We never arrive. So that's for those of us that are perfectionists and people that have been trying for years to have the perfect body, the perfect diet, the perfect exercise routine. It's not perfect. It's always moving, and it's our job to move with it and not get stuck on trying to make it perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go over some healthier eating guidelines based on Ayurveda. So in Ayurveda, there are a lot of beliefs that we haven't been taught here in the United States. And actually, if we were taught these as kids, things would probably be a lot more simpler for us in terms of our diets and our body image. Because I know a lot of the unhealthy eating behaviors that a lot of us had growing up, we're going to talk about what we should have been doing or what we can start doing now. Okay, so the first one is be hungry. So do a body scan before you eat. How do you feel? Do you feel hungry? Check in with yourself, close your eyes for a second, and ask yourself if you feel hungry. Or are you just eating because everyone else is eating? Maybe you're in a social setting and everyone's ordering food and you realize you're not even hungry, but you're just going to eat because everyone's eating. Or it's that time of day that's scheduled into your work day from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock is the lunch hour, but you're not actually hungry yet, but you feel like you should eat because it's lunchtime. So check in with yourself. How do you feel emotionally? Do you feel like eating? How does your stomach, how does your body feel? Are you actually hungry? Don't eat if you're not hungry. Next, be ready to receive food. Don't be distracted, and that includes emotionally. So most people these days eat with some distraction going on. Either the TV's on, or they have their computer on, or they're looking at their phone while they're eating. Being in a conversation with another person is different because that is actually healthy as long as you're not talking about something negative. You don't want negative things going on in your head while you're eating. In Ayurveda, it's believed that if you're stressing out about whatever you're talking about in the moment or whatever you're thinking about while you're eating, that you're actually taking in more stress. You're increasing that feeling and you're taking it in, and now it's going to become part of your body. So you don't want to be in an argument while you're eating. You don't want to be talking about money or taxes or mortgage payments or any of that kind of stuff while you're eating. You don't want to be in an argument with your husband or your boyfriend or your children during dinner. You don't want to be arguing with your boss or your employees or whatever that you have going on at work while you're eating. You want to be eating in a very relaxed, happy, content, emotional state. So you don't want to be distracted emotionally. You don't want negative things going on, and you don't want to be distracted physically, meaning watching TV or looking at your computer screen or looking at your phone while you're eating. While you're eating, just eat. Like sitting at a table, having a family meal. If you don't live with other people and you live alone, you can sit at your table with just yourself and have a nice meal without looking at the TV or your computer screen or your phone. Okay, the next one. Eat good nutrients for breakfast. Eat really good nutrients for breakfast. Something like a green smoothie, a simple cereal like rolled oatmeal, something that does not have a lot of sugar and a lot of preservatives and a lot of junk in it. You want to start your day out with healthy nutrients. You've been on a fast from dinner. So let's say the last time you ate was 6 p.m. the night before, and now it's 8 a.m., let's just say. So it's been 14 hours since you've eaten. The last thing you want to do is eat a bunch of junk. You want to eat good nutrients, but also remember from another episode that I told you, I think I've told you on more than one episode, so this is probably going to be the third time that I mention this. Breakfast is not your most important meal of the day. It's not your biggest one. It's not your heaviest one. It's not your most important one. Your most important meal of the day is lunch. Breakfast is meant to do exactly what the name says. It's meant to break your fast from the night before. It's meant to break that 14 or more hour fast that you have going on. But it's not meant to give you all of your nutrients for the whole day. Okay? It's supposed to be light. It's supposed to be nutritious. So if you can make yourself a green smoothie for breakfast, that's great. If you can have some fruit, if you can have some fresh ingredients, colorful, vibrant fruit, not frozen fruit thrown in a smoothie. You want fresh fruit. You want fruit that's in season. In the summertime, there's a lot of different kinds of fruits available that are in season. In the winter, it's going to be a little different. So try to eat what's in season. Try to eat fresh things. And try to keep it light but full of nutrients. Okay. The next one, eat during daylight hours. Again, I've mentioned this on another episode where we talked about early bedtime and having a good morning routine. So you basically want to not be eating during when it's dark. So if the sun's going down at 6, you want to try to eat your dinner by 6. We've talked about that on earlier lighter dinners. Right now, when I'm recording this, we just have the time change. And so, yes, it's getting darker a little earlier, but I already eat a really early dinner anyway. I always eat before 5 or at 5, unless it's a special occasion and a bunch of people are getting together, like on my birthday, or we had reservations and they were a little bit later. Unless it's something like that, or if I'm eating at someone else's house or something, then it might be a little bit later. But in general, more than 90% of the time, I am eating during daylight hours. I eat my dinner before 6, and I don't eat my next meal until after I've come home from yoga. So I don't eat my next meal until about 11 o'clock the next morning. So I have more like a brunch. I don't have a breakfast and a lunch and a dinner. But that's just me. That's just how I schedule my day. But you want to eat during daylight hours. So if you get up by 6, usually the sun is rising or has risen by that time. And then your lunch, like we talked about before, is in the middle of the day. And then your dinner, you want to eat it before the sun goes down and not snack after dinner, because dinner is the last meal of the day. And after that, the kitchen is closed and then we go on a fast until the morning. Okay. The next one is have a big, healthy, satisfying lunch. Now, I just talked about that a little bit, that lunch is our most important meal of the day. So for lunch, we're going to have our biggest meal of the day. It's going to have the most nutrients and be the densest. If we're going to have carbs like bread or pasta or that kind of thing, we want to have it during our lunchtime meal. Okay. For those of us that eat grains and pasta and bread. I know some people are gluten-free and don't eat some of that stuff. So whatever you're going to have during the day, that's the heaviest. So if you're going to have a steak, this is for the meat eaters in the group. If you're going to have a steak, if you're going to have baked potato, if you're going to have, think about all the densest foods you can think of right now. Eat those at lunchtime. Your lighter foods, your soups and your salads and your veggie stir fries and your rice dishes and your stews and broths and all those things that are light compared to some of these other foods I'm mentioning, you want to have all those at dinner, okay? You want to have for your breakfast, like we already talked about, nutritious, healthy, light foods as well, and your heaviest foods, you're going to have those at lunchtime, okay? And that all has to do with your digestion and what's called Agni, your digestive fire. In Ayurveda, we talk a lot about Agni and Ama. Ama means toxins. Agni is your digestive fire, so the healthier you are, the more digestive fire you have, and the better metabolism you have to burn off all that energy. So you want to have a good digestive fire. Your digestive fire is strongest at the middle of the day when the sun is at its peak. So around noon, that's when we want to have our biggest meal, when our digestive fire is the strongest. Okay, next one. Notice the prana in your food. The prana is life force. So Ayurveda talks a lot about prana and life force energy. So those three terms will be used sometimes interchangeably. We want to eat things that are as fresh as possible because they have the most prana in them. The more energy, the more life force. So if you have a garden and you go out and pick something from your garden and then you bring it in, you prepare it and you eat it, that's probably one of the most highest levels of prana foods that you have around because it was literally just growing and you just picked it. Something that you've had in the freezer for a week, let's say, it's been frozen, you cooked it and it was great when you made it. You made so much of it that you have extras and you're going to freeze it, or maybe you made extras on purpose so that you could freeze it and have it another day, but you used all fresh ingredients or all organic ingredients. Maybe it's a stew or a soup or something like that, or some kind of sauce, and you froze it, and now you want to defrost it a week later and use it. Well, when you froze it, you pretty much destroyed its prana. Now, I'm not saying that that food's not good. It's obviously better than buying frozen food at the grocery store aisle or going to a restaurant that doesn't use fresh ingredients. Maybe they have a bag of something that's been frozen. Who knows how long that's been frozen. All of those foods that I just mentioned, they really don't have any prana in them. And so those are not going to have the best nutrients for you to take in. Okay, so I'm not saying don't ever freeze anything, but if you can prepare things fresh and eat them as fresh as possible, that's going to be better for you. Okay, so sometimes people ask, well, what's a rule of thumb? Like, how long can I keep something before it loses all its prana? Well, in Ayurveda, we really talk about 1 to 2 days. So if you made something fresh at home, you know, someone that eats leftovers, let's say you live alone and you always have leftovers, you want to eat it within the first 48 hours. After that, it's not really going to have any prana left, so you don't want to really keep it after that. if you've gone to a restaurant and you have leftovers, a take-home bag, a doggy bag, whatever, and you bring it home and you put it in the fridge and you're going to eat it the next day, as long as you're eating that one within 24 hours, it's still considered good. After that, you want to get rid of it. So for food that you've prepared, 48 hours. For food that was prepared somewhere else, then you brought it home, 24 hours. Okay? And we want to avoid freezing things as much as possible. Okay, next one. Pause and experience gratitude. Love your food and those who prepared it before it becomes part of your body. So this is a really big one in Ayurveda. It's a very important one. I know a lot of people here in the West don't say grace or don't pray before their meals anymore. And that's fine if you're not religious or you don't pray as a family. You don't have to start praying. I'm not saying that. But you want to take a moment if you don't pray. If you do pray, then you're already doing this. But maybe you can take it one step further. But if you don't pray, I'm not asking you to start praying. What I'm asking you to do is to pause. You don't even have to close your eyes, but if you want to close your eyes for a moment and take one deep breath, and in that deep breath, you're thinking to yourself, I'm thankful for this food and for all of those who have prepared it. If you're eating someone else's food, like at a restaurant or at someone else's house, someone else has prepared the food other than you. If you're at home and let's say your mom prepared it for you, it's the same thing, but you just want to, take that moment and breathe in and think or say to yourself, I'm thankful for this food and thankful for my mom who prepared this food, and I want to bless her hands for making this food for me, because you know who made it, so you can keep her in that thought. When you don't know who made it, it was a chef, some chef or a cook. You don't know that person, so you can't say it specifically to them, but some people go one step further, and even if they've prepared it themselves, they'll say, I'm thankful for this food, for the people who've prepared it for me, for the farmers who grew it, and for the farm workers who picked it for me. So you want to include everyone who's touched the food before you actually eat it. Okay, the next one. Chew your food. So a lot of people, you've heard that phrase that someone just gulps down their food or someone just inhales their food. I mean, that became a phrase for a reason. A lot of people are not chewing their food completely. It's recommended to chew each bite like 20 times. I mean, most people are not going to sit there and count 20 as they're eating, but you want to chew your food completely. So pause when you're having a conversation and chew your food completely. Also, just in terms of physiology and gut health, if you're not chewing your food completely and you're swallowing like big chunks of food, I don't want it to sound really gross, but you know who you are if you're not chewing your food completely. If you're not chewing your food completely, then it's hard for the enzymes in your saliva and your stomach and throughout your digestive tract to digest your food completely and absorb all the nutrients from it. It's really meant to be, the food is really meant to be chewed completely so that it's already broken down before the enzymes go to work on it. So if you're swallowing big chunks of food, sometimes those go through your stomach and come all the way out your digestive tract and look the same as when they went in. I know you know what I'm talking about, some of you more than others, and not to be gross, but that food has not been digested completely. There could be other reasons, there could be other things going on if you have different type of inflammatory bowel disease or some other things in your digestive tract that are going on that are contributing to it, but chewing it is a very simple way to help your digestive tract digest that food. Okay? All right. The next one. Notice the 6 tastes and the flavors and how they change as they mix with your physiology. So we talked about the 6 tastes in Ayurveda before, and we talked about making sure that your meals have all the 6 tastes if you can incorporate some salty and some sweet and some sour, pungent, astringent, all the 6 tastes that we talked about. You want to notice them and appreciate them as you're eating. Next one. If you tend to overeat, focus on getting full with more senses than just your tongue. So what that one is really saying is, if you tend to overeat, before you start eating, take in the food with your other senses. Look at the food, appreciate the colors, smell the food, appreciate the smells, and appreciate the food as you eat it. So eat it at a slower pace, which will help you get full, which will help you notice when you're full so that you don't overeat. Okay, next one. Fast on water between meals. So we've talked about this a little bit before, no snacking between meals. If you eat 3 meals a day, you just want to stick to those 3 meals. If you're feeling like having something in your mouth between the meals, you want that to be water. Okay? In between meals, we just want to take in water. Why do we do that? I know I explained this when we talked about earlier lighter dinner, but we want to have 4 hours between each meal, because the same reason that we want to eat our dinner 4 hours before going to bed, we want our food to be completely digested before we have our next meal. So if you're eating a meal, let's say you eat your breakfast at 8 o'clock, and then you have a snack at 10 o'clock, and then you're going to eat your lunch at 12. That means you're eating every 2 hours. So you eat your breakfast at 8 o'clock, and it's halfway digested at 10, and then you add some more food in there, which is your snack. Now you have fresh food in your stomach, halfway digested food in your intestines, and that is wreaking havoc on your digestive tract. It's kind of going, wait, I'm not done digesting the first thing that you gave me at 8 o'clock, and now you're giving me this one. Now I got to go and deal with this, but I'm not done dealing with this. And there's some confusion going on, which causes some digestive issues. So you don't want to do that. Just water between meals. Next one. Eat as much and as frequently as your body needs. So learn about your constitution and eat for your individual needs. Be honest with yourself. So, if you know your dosha, this is going to apply to you and you'll understand it a little bit more. If you don't, just go online and find a dosha quiz and click on that, answer the questions, and find out what dosha you are. So, if you know your doshas, here's a guideline for you. As a guideline, Vatas eat 3 to 4 times a day. Pittas eat 2 to 3 times a day. And Kaphas eat 1 to 2 times a day. Now, Kaphas are already heavier, have a heavier constitution. They don't need to eat as much as the other doshas. Vatas, because they're very thin and frail, they need to eat a little bit more often. And Pittas are right in the middle. Next one, relax after eating. After a big meal, rest for 15 minutes and then walk it off. So after a big meal, we don't want you to go and take a 2-hour nap, because that's exactly the opposite of what I just said about dinner time. You just want to rest, meaning not laying down and sleeping, but just like sitting comfortably for 15 minutes, kind of letting your food settle, and then going for a walk or doing something mild, doing chores around the house. Nothing strenuous. You don't want to start running a marathon right after you've eaten a big meal, but you want to do some activity. The next one, eat a light dinner, leaving time to digest before rest. We just talked about that. You want to do that 4 hours before going to bed. And the last one is eat your ecosystem. We talked about this one already when we talked about plant-based diets, but you basically want to eat what's local to you and what's in season. So the perfect way to find that out is to go to a farmer's market in your neighborhood, because the stuff that is sold at the farmer's market is from your local area and it's in season. Okay, that's all I'm going to go into for now because that was a lot of information. I do have a book on this. Go to my website, drmichele.com/healthy eating. You can download it for free, and it's going to talk about some of the stuff we just talked about on the podcast in a little bit more detail. And in case you were trying to write some of those down and you couldn't write them down, you'll have some of that information right there in your ebook. Okay, so that's it for now, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.